That's what they came after me for. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. My name is Neil Derry. I'm currently County Supervisor for the 3rd District, which incorporates now the city of Barstow and the unincorporated areas that are surrounded a little bit in Barstow. We had redistricting, of course, this year because of the census. You're all familiar with that. The Board of Supervisors knows different. My district, I'll tell you a little bit about me and my district first. The 3rd District incorporates the cities and towns of Grand Terrace, Loma Linda, Redlands, Highland, a portion of San Bernardino, Yucaipa, then goes all the way out to 29 Palms Marine Corps Base, incorporates the entire Marine Corps Base, the Morongo Basin out to Wonder Valley, then comes up the backside of the Marine Corps Base, up through the Lucerne Valley, Johnson Valley, Lucerne Valley, then comes right around the city of Barstow and heads down through Big Bend. So it kind of looked at, so Barstow, I'll explain, when they redistricted, that's the way they redistricted, the board did it on a 3-2 vote. I and Supervisor Mitzelfeld voted against it, not because I don't want to represent Barstow, but because you have quite a bit more in common with the Victor Valley than you actually do with the Morongo Basin or Redlands. There was another snafu they threw in there. They also split the mountains. Before I had Lake Arrowhead, from Lake Arrowhead all the way through to Big Bear and the entire valley outside of Crestline. Well, they decided to throw everything from Running Springs to the west into the 2nd District, Ranch Cucamonga and up, which makes a lot of sense. So we had a number of people come down during this debate in October when the final decision was made, and folks in Barstow showed up and requested that the situation be changed. The folks from Lake Arrowhead showed up. About 30 folks came down the mountain to explain how they wanted the mountain to be in one district so they would have a bigger voice in who they elect as their supervisor. And they were roundly ignored. I and Supervisor Mitzelfeld voted against it. The 3 others from the valley voted for it. So that's the redistricting as it is today. I am proud to be representing Barstow. I think it's a great community. I've been up here quite a bit. If you talk to folks, I try to be as visible in the communities as I can. In the past 3.5 years, I have a county vehicle that the county provides me for travel throughout the district, and I put over 140,000 miles on my county vehicle in the last 3.5 years because my job is to be in the district, understanding who I'm serving, understanding what your issues are, so I can properly represent you at the Board of Supervisors. My predecessor, Dennis Hansberg, you probably don't know who he was. He was in office for 20 years, and the biggest complaint that I heard, one of the main reasons I ran for office, was because he was never out in his district. He never talked to the people. The folks in Big Bear felt completely ignored. The folks in the Morongo Basin felt completely ignored. If you didn't live in Redlands, you were pretty much ignored by his office. I've worked to change that. I beat him in the election in 2008, primarily because I was out in the district working very hard. And I've continued that through my career as your county supervisor. And you're going to see a lot of me, particularly if you re-elect me. You'll get sick and tired of me, as a matter of fact. Just so you do know, I do sing. I sing Sinatra. You can pull me up on YouTube if you don't believe me. So I do nonprofit events. I've done about 50 to 60 events for nonprofits throughout the communities I serve, for chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs, and different nonprofits. So I do that for fun. I have my own sound system, so I'm ready to go. I run in the back of my car. It makes me a little more human, I think, than most politicians anyway, and I'm a lot more fun to hang around with. A little bit about me. My family, I was born in Whittier, California. My family moved to the city of San Bernardino in 1974, where I grew up. I went to local schools, and my mom still lives in the house that my parents moved into 30 plus years ago. I went to San Bernardino High School in San Bernardino. I graduated class of 1987. So I'm only 43. I'm the youngest member of the Board of Supervisors, and I don't let them get the end of that either. I went straight to the Marine Corps out of high school. I was the first in my class to join the Marine Corps. 13 of my classmates followed me into the Corps. The recruiter used me as an example for all the football players because I was this little scrawny kid, and they told me, well, Neil Derry's going to the Marine Corps, what's your problem? And so I think he embarrassed them into it. But we had 13 of my classmates join me. I went to the Marine Corps as an avionics technician. I served 4 years in the first Gulf War, as well as Westpac overseas and 2 tours overseas. After my 4 years were up, I was honorably discharged as a corporal. I went into college, started college at Cal State San Bernardino. I used my GI Bill to pay for it. The great thing was I was working full-time and going to college like many students do, particularly nowadays. But I fell into politics at that time. I volunteered at the County Republican Party in San Bernardino, and I was hired for a part-time job running a voter registration program. This is back in 1991. And eventually I was made the interim executive director of the county party. Now, you know that 1992 election was that great year when Bill Clinton was elected, and we did terribly in Congress. But we did win a few seats in the state legislature, and I went to work for a Republican in the legislature named Fred Aguirre, who was represented the Ontario area. So I worked in his district office for 5.5 years. I worked my way up from clipping newspapers at $4 an hour all the way up to his primary field rep and campaign manager. During that time, I finished my college degree at Cal State San Bernardino and in political science. One of those useful degrees, you know. It's only useful if you're going into politics. You want to be a lawyer, and I didn't want to be a lawyer. But I figured as long as I get my degree, I can take it anywhere, and I didn't want, you know, in the Marine Corps, you can fly with a degree in underwater basket weaving. So I figured if I couldn't do anything else, I could go back to the Marine Corps and try to be a pilot. But I just fell into politics, and I've been doing it ever since. After 5 years in the legislature, I went to the private sector, worked public relations, public affairs for a private firm. Some of my clients were California Steel, California Speedway, the County of Riverside, and a number of other smaller clients. I worked on negotiations and development agreements with local governments. Worked on I worked at annexations and land use issues. And that was my primary work there. I worked there for 2 years, then went to the treasurer's office at the County of San Bernardino, and never had to deal with bureaucracy before. So after about 2 years of being bored out of my mind, I was hired by Southern California Edison as a region manager of public affairs, where I served for approximately up until I was elected to this position. During that time, I was elected to the City Council in San Bernardino, representing what was the 4th Ward. The city is broken into 7 districts, which we call wards. My ward was basically from the borderline of Cal State San Bernardino along the foothills east all the way to the 330. So if you're familiar with that area, that's the area I represented while I was on the council. I was in office during the 03 old fire, if you're familiar with that, which burned through the Del Rosa area, destroyed over 350 homes, all in my district. I'm very proud to say that I wore 2 hats during that time. I was a city councilman. I was also working public affairs for Southern California Edison. I was very proud to work for Edison at that time because we had power up to every house within 7 days. We put up over 200 miles of new wire, over 200 new power poles during that time frame, and Edison does a bang-up job, particularly during emergencies. After we finished there, we went straight up the hill into Lake Arrowhead and the areas up there that were affected, Cedar Glen, which were also burned out, and I continued that work up there. I'm also very proud to say that the city of San Bernardino took a very aggressive stance in allowing people to rebuild as quickly as possible. We waived building fees for people that lost their homes. We expedited permits. If you brought your plan in for your house, we got it turned around within 2 weeks. So you could get started and get building again. We helped with property clearance. If people couldn't clear their property, we'd help clear the property for them. And basically, over the 3 years following the fire, 85% of the homes in the community were rebuilt completely. And very proud of that fact. It took a real effort by the community and by the city council to make that possible. In Cedar Glen, when I took over this position as supervisor, the community of Cedar Glen was never rebuilt. It was never cleaned up. The county sort of ignored it. And so in my first year of office, we got all the slabs removed. There were 40 chimneys still standing up there. If you can believe it, it looked like Nagasaki after the bomb. And so we went through and created a cleanup program for that. And we did it less than $4,000 per lot. We removed the slabs, we removed the chimneys, we removed all the safety hazards. So hopefully someday soon, that area will actually get rebuilt. I was elected, of course, county supervisor in 2008. And during this time as your supervisor, my main goal has been to clean up the county and clean up the corruption in the county. I ran on an ethics platform. Our county has had numerous issues. You're familiar with some of those people with those issues as well as I am. When I was elected, my first goal was to get Mr. Postmus out of the assessor's office. And it wasn't because I didn't like Bill. Bill did a pretty good job as supervisor from what I understand, but he was abusing the office. I found out about that during the election, within 2 months, within my first month of office, I forced the board to start an investigation of the assessor's office, and within 2 months after that, Mr. Posters resigned from his position. That's one of the unfortunate situations, but you know, and there's a lot of problems in the county that I learned while running for office. One of those was that we weren't open to the public. We tried to keep records hidden. When I arrived in office, every single file in the 3rd District was shredded. It was gone, all of it, against county policy, quite frankly. So I knew there was a problem. I and my staff came up with a solution. It's called the Sunshine Ordinance that we passed over the objections of my colleagues, believe me, stringent objections. I'll give you another example of the abuse in the county. We have what are called CAL cards, which are county credit cards. My office has one. My secretary, my administrative assistant has it, and it's just in case of emergencies. But other offices have 13 of them issued all kinds of different people in the office. When the Sun newspaper down in the San Bernardino Sun newspaper requested copies of the credit card receipts for the supervisors and their staff, they would receive a document that looked like an FBI file where it's all blacked out. So you couldn't tell what they were spending, who they were spending it with. It just said business lunch and it gave a total. It didn't say who, didn't give a reason, didn't tell why. And this was pretty much across the board. They used a certain provision in state law, which they abused, by the way, but the lawyers allowed them to use a certain provision in state law that allowed them to hide that information from you and from the press. The Sunshine Ordinance I passed eliminated that. Now, if you request a public records request on any documents, particularly financial documents, from the Board of Supervisors, you get a clean sheet. It shows exactly what the expenditure was, exactly why it was spent, who it was spent with, and the purpose and the cost. And that all has to be there. It's all public there for you to see. Those are the type of things the Sunshine Ordinance opened up. Now, I'm going to tell you there's a lot of, thank you, there's a lot of policy. The corruption in the county didn't begin in Mr. Posters. It's been there for 50 years. How many people have been in this county since I'm not even going to go that far back. I'll just let you know.
60 years.
60 years? Okay. Well, growing up in San Bernardino, my family transplanted from the LA basin, so I wasn't familiar with all the crazy stuff that's gone on in this county for so many years. I've learned a lot since I was on the city council. How many people know that San Bernardino back in the 30s had a red light district? Oh, yeah. Right by the sheriff's department. Gambling, prostitution, the whole 9 yards. You know, and I'll tell you the reason it was cleaned up. The Army Air Corps came into San Bernardino and said, we want to put a military base here, but we're not doing it as long as that stuff's over there on T Street. And so the sheriff, within about a matter of weeks, shut the whole place down, cleaned it up, and the Army Air Force Base was built. That's why you had a red light district that went away in San Bernardino. How many, Bugsy, who was the guy that started Las Vegas? Bugsy Siegel. How many people know he had 2 casinos in Lake Arrowhead? He did. They were little houses where they were actually large houses. They would have big gambling parties, and it was pretty. And the sheriff's department knew about it. And whenever they were going to go in for a bust with the feds, they would have their lights flash and everything else. So Bugsy and his guys would clean up the house. And so they'd have everything pushed into closets, closed in, the walls would be shut down. And so that's the kind of stuff that's going on in this county for a very long time. I'm trying to, now I'm not saying it's that bad. We don't have houses of prostitution being run by the sheriff's department anymore. I'm not saying anything like that.
You're just down the street.
I wouldn't know. You know, some people think that baseline in San Bernardino is the new one. But we do have problems in the county, obviously. Those type of corruption issues continue to today. They're not as they're not out there in your face, they're not out there in the open, but the issues are still problems. And the Sunshine Ordinance and some of the other measures I've taken to cut the benefits from the Board of Supervisors and elected officials, which I did in my first 6 months in office. I ran the Board of Supervisors back in 2007. This is part of the corruption, I feel. We passed an ordinance that increased the benefits for elected officials only by $26,000 a year in their benefits package. That's basically cash in their pocket is what it was, because they weren't paid enough, I guess. I ran on repealing that. That passed on a 3-2 vote with no discussion. The public did not know what was passed. They didn't know that the board had increased their benefits. It passed by a 3-2 vote. My opponent in the last election voted against it and then accepted the benefits package. So one of my promises was to repeal that package when I was elected. We repealed it. And we've gone further than that. We repealed other benefits that the Board of Supervisors and elected officials have been receiving for some time. We're now paying 7% towards our retirement, like we're asking all of our employees to do. We're making some real fiscal reforms. I am a United States Marine. I've always operated that way. Brad Mitzelfeld's a Marine. He just doesn't look like one. I get my hair cut in Oceanside occasionally in Twin Palms. I get a good Marine barber, but I haven't been for a while. You can tell it's a little out of whack. It's been a busy campaign season. I have a family. My wife, I have a wife, and my son Nathan is 7 years old. We reside currently in Redlands, California. We moved from San Bernardino to Redlands because the school district is much better there. And my wife kept beating me over the head saying, private school or move to Redlands. And, well, it was easier to pay another mortgage actually than it was to pay for private school. The housing market was a good place at the time to buy a new home. So we bought a little house. It's much smaller than our house in San Bernardino, but it's a nice quiet community, and we're happy to be there. And it's a little more centralized to the community. I get right on the 10th freeway. I'm out in Yucca Valley, 29 Palms within an hour. I could be up here within an hour and a half. It's a pretty clean drive. But, you know, I've talked a lot about myself. Politicians always talk too much. We talked about some of the accomplishments we've made. Let's tell you a little bit about what's happening in the county right now with our budget. Over the next 5 years, we have about $125 million deficit cumulative over that period of time. That's over 5 years. That sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but not when you compare it to our $4 billion budget. So we're really not in as bad a shape as some people would like to state we are. We do have a problem. Our budget's not perfect. And we are keeping a lot of positions vacant, but we've had no permanent layoffs up to this point. Riverside County has had, I think, over 1,000 layoffs in the past 2 years, so we've been able to avoid that so far. But we're going to be, our budget will also be affected by whatever Sacramento does, and whatever Jerry Brown does to us. So, and I think that's going to be something we're keeping an eye on, particularly in this budget cycle at the state level. But there are some other issues at the county regarding infrastructure. Some of my colleagues want to pay $200 million for a new radio system for public safety. It's going from an 800 megahertz analog system to an 800 megahertz digital system. The problem is by the time we pay for it and buy it and put it in place, it'll be 20-year-old technology and we'll have something new. So my position is you don't, when you've got a family budget crisis, you pay the mortgage, you put the food on the table, and upgrading the computer system is probably the last thing on your list. Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is the last thing on our list we should be doing. It's unnecessary. The technology is already outdated. I was an avionics technician. I do know a little bit about communications and navigation systems. So, and the military is using some equipment that's much cheaper right now that will be on the market shortly. That's satellite-based. It won't have the same line of sight problems that the 800 megahertz system has, the short distances that it has to travel, and the cost involved. So I'm looking at those technologies. If we take the $25 million we're spending over the next 8 years to build that system out of the budget, our budget's balanced, and we're in great shape. So those are some of the things I'm going to be fighting for in this budget. June 30th, we have to have our budget approved. But things are looking actually pretty good. I want to make sure now. The other thing Jerry Brown's doing to us is he's released 4,600 parolees into our communities. And they've given us some funding with probation to try to monitor these folks. It's not enough. We're seeing property crimes increase dramatically in the last few months in all of our communities. Doesn't matter where you live. And right now we're running short of about 100 sheriff's deputies on the street because we kept positions vacant. I'd much rather use that money, the available money, to fill as many of those positions as possible. Make sure our sheriff's department is fully funded. Make sure that our police departments have the resources they have, so we can cooperate and try to bring some order to the chaos that Sacramento has unleashed on our communities. That's one of my goals in this budget cycle. We'll see how it goes. I and Brad seem to be on the losing end of a 3-2 vote. We got the Three Valley folks who don't know much about the rest of the county. They don't know much about the mountains of the unincorporated areas that are so impacted, like my district, 1st District, and the 3rd District, where we have huge unincorporated populations. But we're going to I hope to convince one of my colleagues to do the right thing this time, and I think we're pretty close to that 3rd.